So I have to admit something to you. I did not even get to day one as your new president and CEO here at the Music School of Delaware without setting off an alarm. So let me explain. It was the day before my first day, and it was a cool Sunday evening in early February. I wanted to get into the building before my first day to set up my office, hang some art, bring in some books, some comfy chairs. If you've been in my office, you know about the comfy chairs. Things to make a new office comfortable, familiar, and welcoming. And of the many things I was thinking about as I unloaded my car with the help of friends, building security was not on my list. Now, I was given the code to the back entrance, and so with an armful of books in my left hand, I punched in the code with my right hand. I opened the door, and I was greeted with a huge, loud alarm that went on and on. And I'm not even on day one, and here I am already on mistake one. So the good news is we figured it out. I called members of my team for support, and they gave me the additional code that I needed to subdue the building alarm, and the only thing that was injured, thankfully, was my pride. And I've now been with you in this role for 139 days so far, and as my dad used to say, God willing and the creek don't rise, I'll make it to 140. But that alarm, it turns out, was no accident. And I want to take you to the year 1928. Prohibition is in its 8th year in the U.S., and the roaring 1920s sparkles and dazzles with flapper fashion, with Art Deco, and with jazz. And across the ocean, in Berlin, in August of 1928, a daring new musical work takes the world by storm just 13 years after The Rite of Spring did much the same. The work is called The Threepenny Opera, and it's a jazz and classical music infused satire, and it's created by composer Kurt Weill and the playwright Bertolt Brecht. And it warns of a capitalist world on fire, and it premieres in the backyard of a rising Nazi Germany, just as the global economy is inching toward a Great Depression. What a scene. So what was the point of Threepenny Opera? Well, the point is to disrupt opera and operatic conventions, to disrupt classical music, to speak directly through a fusion of classical music and jazz to a diverse working class audience about important social issues, and of course, at the same time, to introduce the song Mac the Knife. It's 1928, and the Music School of Delaware is 4 years old. Fast forward to 1957. 1957 is when RCA, do many of you remember RCA? Yes. So when RCA introduces something called the Mark II machine, which, if you haven't heard of it, is the first programmable electronic music synthesizer. It marks a major turning point in the development of music technology. It's an important precursor, for example, to MIDI, and it paves the way for later generations to leverage PCs, software, apps, and platforms to expand the palette of musical possibilities. It's 1957, and the Music School of Delaware is 33 years old. Let's visit 1964. In front of a nearly all-white, sold-out Carnegie Hall audience, Nina Simone has something to say. Martin Luther King Jr. has just been arrested, and he's jailed in Birmingham. A young civil rights activist named Medgar Evers has been assassinated by a white supremacist. So Nina Simone takes the stage on March 22nd, 1964, ready to speak and sing her mind. And her set list includes an original tune that she wrote titled Old Jim Crow. She includes a cover of the Kurt Weill song Pirate Jenny from, you guessed it, Threepenny Opera. and she introduces a new song that she calls a show tune, but the show hasn't been written yet. And in this song, blistering with anger and pointed social critique, she sings, "They keep on saying go slow, but to do things gradually would bring more tragedy. Why don't you see it? Why don't you feel it? I don't know. I don't know. You don't have to live next to me. Just give me my equality." It's 1964, and the Music School of Delaware is 40 years old. Let's step into the 21st century. October 23rd, 2001. A brilliant, if complicated, mastermind known for his signature black turtlenecks and dazzling product launches. Are you following? Introduces the world to another revolutionary advancement at the intersection of music and technology, and it was called the iPod. Perhaps you were there for this. Suddenly, an entire universe of music is available at the push of a tiny button or the spin of a wheel, if you remember that. There's an absolute frenzy from the public. Everyone's got to have an iPod. It's 2001, and the Music School of Delaware is 77 years old. May 25th, 2020. "I Can't Breathe" becomes a national rallying cry for racial justice. These, of course, are the last words from Minneapolis father George Floyd. Not long after that, in the continued heat of America's national reckoning on race, a group of black classical music composers come together, united in purpose, and they call themselves the Blacknificent Seven, with Jesse Montgomery, Carlos Simon, and Damian Jeter among them. The goal of the Blacknificent Seven is simple: to support one another's life and work, to reimagine the future of classical music, and to collaborate on special projects. It's 2020, and the Music School of Delaware is 96 years old. So today it's 2024. Last week, the Surgeon General of the United States recommended that a warning label be attached to social media channels because of the negative effects that excessive social media has on the mental health of young people. And in that same week, if you read the papers or you pay attention online, you know that the Annie E. Casey Foundation ranks Delaware as 45th in the nation for public education. Why? They cite our unusually low test scores, high absenteeism, and worsening trends in underlying social determinants of health. Let me step back for a moment, because my outlook for the world and for this school is optimistic ultimately. And I believe that in the face of big challenges, big disparities, and big inequities, optimism is warranted. In fact, it's needed. So just look around. When I look around this room, I have a lot of reason for optimism. Lawrence Trice from the school's teaching faculty is here. And in addition to working with private students at the music school, Lawrence teaches orchestra at the Newark Charter School, and in fact, some of his students recently premiered a new composition of his. Our friends Robert Tombari, Matt Silva, and Karen Harcum from partner organizations Delaware Shakespeare, Delaware Theater Company, and Christina Cultural Center are here with us tonight. Robert, Matt, and Karen are three of many valued arts partners to the school across the state, including many more friends and partners downstate. Hello, Sarah Kate Hammer. Hello, Nadia Zykel. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Dr. Jacqueline Falcone is here. Jacqueline, are you still here with us tonight? There you are. If you haven't met Dr. Falcone before tonight, well, she is a legend unto herself. A voice teacher, public school music educator, and a music school faculty member for going on 50 years. Dr. Falcone, I'm delighted that you're with us tonight. Thank you. So let's rewind to my pre-day one incident with the alarm. So I've had a few days, 139 to be exact, to reflect on that day and to think about all the ones that have followed. And I tend to believe, as a musician, as a person, that ultimately most things happen for a reason. Or perhaps I should say I experience more satisfaction and ease in my life if I look to mistakes or failures or signals as opportunities to learn. Whether that's in a choir rehearsal, an orchestra rehearsal, in the office or in the boardroom. So I keep thinking to myself, what was that alarm? Well, if you allow me some poetic justice, I think the alarm ultimately was an echo. It was a big noise connecting the past of this institution to the future. I think that alarm helped me to understand the 100 years of alarms that have been sounding in music and society since 1924, the very alarms that have led us to this moment, thinking together about the future of music, the future of kids and families, and the future of Delaware. I think it was an echo of the alarm sounded at that three-penny opera premiere in 1928. The alarm sounded by the advent of that first programmable synthesizer or the introduction of the iPod, revolutions in how we create and consume music. I think it was the alarm that sounded when Nina Simone cried out for freedom and justice that night in Carnegie Hall. I think it's the alarm that the Blacknificent Seven are sounding as they work not just to expand the classical music canon, but to redefine it and to reclaim it. I think it's the alarm being sounded by the Surgeon General about the negative mental health impacts of social media on young people, and people of all ages, I should say, or the Casey Foundation's ranking of Delaware as 45th in the nation for public education. And we are the Music School of Delaware. We're a community music school. We're a learning hub for empathic connections, a space to practice radical humanity, and a campus for creative exploration. We endeavor to work with and serve young people and adults from all ages and backgrounds, from all colors and races and ethnicities, and in all corners of the state. And how lucky we are to live in a fabulously complex, ever-changing world. And so my hope is this, that in the noise of the alarms from our last 100 years, we can start to find together the signal, the sound, perhaps even the music for our next 100 years to come. Thank you.